What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold, and we are Super Bowl bound, guys.
Woohoo!
It happened.
Yes, finally. This is a special show tonight, and I would like to bring on our special guests. We have Bruce Kittle, and we have Emma Kittle Ponce.
Hey, Bruce and Emma.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Your intro got me so excited.
Guys, congratulations. With George making the Super Bowl, with the 49ers making the Super Bowl. How does it feel?
Let's see.
You go, Bruce.
If we're family friendly or not, I don't know. But anyway, our podcast isn't. But it's
whatever you feel like saying. Go ahead.
We're totally front. We're free and clear here. It's
there's a lot to that. We can unpack it on the show. So I would just say, on the one hand, it's a relief. I mean, I know you guys because you follow it. You're football fans. We might have a little bit different perspective being on the inside view that we get and just being around George and the family and other players and from off season and all that kind of stuff and the amount of time and energy and physical adversity they face and all that kind of stuff. So just knowing what a goal this was for this team and all of that kind of thing. And just to get through that, especially where we were at halftime and then to come back and, get it taken care of. So anyway, it was a great relief. It was an awesome victory in the end over the Lions. And we can talk about that, but really just my thing was mostly just joy and just really happy, particularly for George, but for all those guys, because we know a bunch of them really well. And just what a relief it was to punch that ticket and get back to that. Because as we know, it's not easy. It's super, super hard to get there, and it's super hard to get a ring. So we got a lot of work left. But anyway, so relief and joy and happiness for right now for about 48 hours or so, because there's 2 weeks, we get an extra day or so to enjoy. And then it's on to the next. But anyway, that's kind of where I was at. I don't know. Emmy Lou?
Emotional. I was a bit of a wreck the last game, and second quarter was like so crazy emotional for me. And I think, like Dad said, like everyone is so emotionally tied to the Niners. And I think that's like so absolutely amazing. I feel so lucky that George got drafted by the Niners and that we've been part of the faithful for 7 years now. And just like the emotion and the devotion that every single fan has is insane. And so I feel like y'all get it. Like when we're up there being so emotional, it's like they're part of your family too. And so I just, he's my little brother. And so to see George just doing his thing and like thriving at the highest level it's so fun. It makes my heart so happy. So yeah, my emotions were like all over the place, but it was insane. It was so great.
Yeah.
How tiring is that for you guys? Like a game like that, where, I mean, basically in the last 2 weeks, it was like, well, wrap it up. Season's over in a couple of different scenarios if you really wanted to get there. And then all of a sudden it completely turns around. Like, you need a couple days to recover from that, because you guys are really, you're on the inside of it even more so than we are, who are obsessed with it.
Speaking personally, the last game, I think I'm still recovering. Like my last 2 sleeps, I felt like I was absolutely in a coma. I will say the night after the game, or like the morning after the game, I woke up singing "Do It for the Bay." Like immediately, I was like, it's like I can feel it like pulsing in my veins still. I'm like, so weedy. Like I gotta sleep, girl. Like get out of my head. So I feel like last night was like my first real good rest. But it's crazy. I mean, we're back on next week.
We are, yeah. I will say it is emotional and it is really draining. We're mindfulness practitioners. It's kind of our background, so all that kind of stuff. So try to maintain that, never get too high for the big plays. You enjoy them, but there's a lot of football left. And same thing with that. It's just different though. It's not the regular season. It's winter, go home. It's the whole thing, and I'm just traveling back to honestly, George starts working again, in March. And so, that's kind of where the season starts. And so all of a sudden, your mind starts reeling in all the things that we've done and he's done and the team's done and all that work to get to this point. And my disappointment, really, the exhausting part for me was that they just looked so awful in the first half. You know what I mean? Just defense and offense. And it was just I don't know, if you lose a game 24-21, you played really well. It was a great game. It's a good team. I mean, shit happens and it's still sad, but boy, to play ugly and just, not show up, that was awful. So anyway, I'm glad we ended up doing it, but yeah, that one was more exhausting for me than the Packer game. So that was a lot just because, getting to the Super Bowl is a thing, but it's not, nobody remembers who loses pretty much. So it doesn't really matter, but we're not going to go that direction. We're just planning on the win. But anyway, yeah. So yes, exhausting indeed.
So Bruce, how do you take it from here? I mean, with, helping George and even you, Emma, you guys seem to have the trifecta with your podcast and your mantra with everything you're doing, with being mindful and movement and all of your, the things that you do in the podcast. How do you keep George in that same mind frame to not let the big moments get too big, as you said, George, and to stay focused on being grounded and appreciate the moment, live in the moment, and yet, focus on the goal and stay in that frame of mind?
I would say personally, outside of our podcast is just fun because it feels like there's all this noise and everything going on. And so it kind of feels like this little bubble for us to reconnect that way, especially the three of us. But I think the way that me personally, I really try to help him is I have a lot of energy and a lot of emotions. And I think that I think that the way that I kind of aid the situation is by being really careful to monitor my emotions and to be really self-contained around that and to set some healthy energetic boundaries, because as much as you want to over celebrate and be really big and we all just went through this, it's George is a professional at the next. That was amazing. We'll celebrate tonight and then we're done and we moved on. We always ask him about the play calls from the previous week and he's it's his brain, he literally can't go in and find them. And so I think just allowing him the space to move on and really supporting him and not being so blowing him up all the time or putting any extra pressure on him and just honoring how sacred this space is. But I feel that's kind of how we operate all season long. It's really just trying to honor his energy and the extreme level of focus that it takes, and then helping Claire when we can, and taking Deanie for runs when we're out there. And I think it's just anything that we can take off the plate is great. Now, granted, we're not going to see them until Vegas, but I think it's just being really not needy, just being really patient and waiting for them to reach out and allowing them to just kind of soak in the magic of this for them.
I think that's huge, allowing them to have their space to detox and deal with it. And then they come to you and you help out. That's huge. I like that.
Yeah, we're like the back wall in a handball court. So they're playing, just kind of bounce it off and just stand there and all that kind of stuff. No, I think Emma summarized that really well. I guess one thing I will say, though, all the things that you mentioned in the question, about being centered and doing the prep work and kind of flushing it. George is a 7-year vet. He's 30 years old. And, he's been hearing these messages from us, that whole time. So it's a pretty, you build habits, and you have a way of doing things. And George certainly has a very, very particular way about his weeks and how he preps. And then before that, when he was at Iowa there for 5 years, he heard the same message for 5 years, and then I coached every single one of his teams until his junior and senior year in high school. You know what I mean? So he's been hearing a lot of that same stuff for a really long time, and just, enjoy the moment, be present, breathe it all in, see it, feel the grass under your feet, all that kind of stuff. And it's really that whole thing about letting the last one go. We talk about flushing you enjoy it for a minute, but then it's got to be gone and you got to get your mind right and start looking at the next one. And all that kind of stuff week to week. So he's got plenty of time for that. They had a couple of days off, so it's good for them. Yeah, I live really hard by the 3-day rule. Fish and family go bad after 3 days. So we don't stick around. There's once in a while if there's 2 back-to-back home games and it just doesn't make sense to travel, but for the most part, we're not around. So, and then like Emma said, just being open and receptive. So every once in a while I'll get a call from him on his way into work and he wants to chat for 20 minutes and, we'll bounce some stuff off, let him vent about whatever. And, then he moves on. So we're just kind of available and there and try to be the sail on the boat to keep things moving, and whatever the wind direction is, we try to respond to that and just kind of be there and make it ready to roll so that when his feet hit that field on the opening kickoff, everything is in place and he's ready to go.
Amazing.
Mr. Kittle, as far as I'd like to know a little bit about what you can tell us about the letters that you write for George.
Well, there's been a few shows on them and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, they originated, I was coaching at Oklahoma, and George had just left for his freshman year. So and this was in the fall. And we had a really, really good player who was a native Oklahoma player who overdosed between alcohol and painkillers. And he was a great player, great young man, really shocked. I mean, it really rocked the OU nation, But anyway, and I had gotten to know his father during that process, just being around. I mean, I knew him beforehand because he was one of our players in the family team and all that. And then he brought out one day that when we were chatting, he showed me this box of letters that he sent to his kid while he was playing at OU. And it just kind of clicked for me, like, because, the kids go to college, you have them. It's just so weird. And, for you, all you guys who have kids, you're the whole world until they get their driver's license or permit, and then it's over. And their phone, and you're just, all you're doing is putting gas in the tank and, telling them when to be home. So, and that wasn't any different for us. And so when he went off, we had all of Iowa, the football stuff, academics, and then, of course, Iowa City is known for its nightlife. So there was all of that too. So I just found it as a way, it was really more about my needs than his, I think, at the beginning. And then trying to coach him up a little bit from afar. I was coaching OU, I've coached high school and college. So was just trying to communicate with him, trying to hear what was working, what wasn't. And, when George first got to college, he was, kind of small and scrawny. They weren't quite sure, so they put him at tight end. But he had a lot of learning to do, a lot of growing to do, and both emotionally, mentally, and physically. And so the letters were really just about trying to pen that his first 3 years. And then when he started playing, then they really shifted over to kind of game prep. And I did some really hardcore scouting back in the day, and because I was at Oklahoma, I had access to all the college games, and everything. So I'd watch, 2 or 3 games and watch the defensive end over here and watch the spin move and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. So kind of, we don't do much of that anymore. So the Iowa days were one. And then I asked him if we wanted to keep doing them. And he said, sure. So I asked him after every season, and you still want to do it. He's so superstitious now, whether he reads them or not, I really don't know anymore.
He does. Don't say that. He reads them.
In for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my question. Do you think there was a point in time where they were just like habit, or did they become something where he learned to appreciate them and really, really values what your content is?
Yeah, they've evolved a lot. So his first 2 or 3 years, it was still kind of more of the scouting, and because he was really getting his feet wet. I mean, he played really well, but he was still learning the business. NFL is a business, and the week-to-week stuff, and then learning the playbook and interfacing with quarterbacks and receivers and managing coaches and front office and all that kind of stuff. So they ranged all over the place. There was always a core message, though, about, be true to yourself. You control your attitude and energy and effort. Those are 3 things that we have at our capacity. And so anytime you walk in that building, you are on display. And so anytime you walk in that building, make sure you are presenting in the way that you want management to see you. And so you're always going to be high energy. You're going to have a great attitude, and you're going to bring your good times with you all the time, because that's a given. And so nobody needs anybody walking around the building that's sourpuss or in a bad mood. Nobody needs it. So just fix it right away. Nobody gives a shit. That's really the truth. So just getting his mind right and handling all his business that way. And he's done a great job. He's, I think, a very meticulous professional at this stage. He does a really good job in the building and all that. And then they've really evolved. So a lot of it is backing away from the bigness of the moment, trying to keep your feet grounded, just breathing it all in. And our if I had one major theme, it's just be yourself and have fun. And because it's still a kid's game, and he plays a lot better when he's having a good time. And you guys can see that the way he is on TV. And it's not a thing. I mean, that's really who he is. And it's just like, enjoy it. And the more fun you're having, and I think he pulls the other guys along with him and helps kind of take the pressure off and all that kind of stuff. So it's all very, it varies. And then we've kind of gone away from, I don't do a lot in playoffs because they've seen everybody and watched all the tapes. So I don't do much of a breakdown there. He kind of likes a little bit of stat stuff. I always put his overall because now he's got a history against almost every team he's played, how many times and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. I always put in some stuff about how they cover tight ends, where they rank and all that kind of stuff and some of the weaknesses of their coverage. So just for some of that. So we work on all that kind of stuff and then always emphasize the run game because I always thought he was going to be an offensive tackle. And I won't say I'm disappointed at this point because it's all but I raised him, when he was little, I was an O-line coach. And so we had the little pads and all of my sixth graders they could drive block like crazy. Every one of my kids, no matter what, on any team until they got into high school, everybody first played O-line. And so I told them all, I go, listen, I know all of you want to be offensive line, but somebody's going to have to play quarterback. And actually, in seventh grade, this is a true story. In seventh grade, I had the parent of the kid that was named the quarterback call me and was angry with me for making his kid play quarterback instead of
Wow.
I had brainwashed, you know what I mean?
You never hear that. Yeah.
So anyway, it's just the basics, and mostly it's telling him that we love him, and just go have fun and kick the shit out of whoever it is. Let's roll. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer. I'm glad to talk any more about them, but they really ebb and flow, and it's kind of each week, different theme, and I use different characters, and sometimes it's Iron Man or, we like a lot of that kind of stuff and Lord of the Rings and just any kind of bad guy or whatever. So I don't know, whatever hits me when I get to the desk usually it's Thursday and Friday, and that's kind of when I crank them out. So.
Awesome.
Okay.
Somebody from the chat, Steve O, wants to know, what are you most proud of in George off the field?
Okay. I've been rambling. Do you want to add something? Let's let you in because I value
I think something that's really, the question that I always get about George is like, is he actually like that? And he's the exact same person that he is on the field as he is off. And I think one of the things that I admire so much about my brother is that he's so good at like still having fun when there's so much pressure on him, and even though he's like so dedicated to his training and he still has to work so hard, like he still is very intentional about taking time to do fun things and, celebrate the moment and like be present for all these opportunities that he has. So that is always a reminder for me. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's a lot of energy, or like I'm way more introvert than George is. And so George inspires me to get out and do more stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. The one thing I would say about George, I guess for me is his years in the NFL went on and he kind of reached, I don't know, whatever, stardom. And, people started wearing his jerseys and all that. That was still kind of a head trip for us as all that transition. But I will say this about George, you might have heard this story, but like one of his first favorites, Dallas Clark, some of the guys at Iowa, when he was younger, we were living in Iowa City and I played there. And so we would go and watch the Iowa games and all that kind of stuff. And he would meet people. And the excitement and joy that George got from getting an autograph from like Robert Gallery or Dallas Clark or any of those guys. And I think George never lost that sense of awe about being a little kid and getting your hero's autograph and how important that is. And I think one of the things I'm really proud of him about is how much time he tries to take. I mean, I can't even tell you guys the volumes of laundry baskets of fan mail that we try to deal with every off season. Like his mom is just, George, 2 hours a week, we're going to sit down and sign stuff. Just so people know, the volume is unbelievable. And then like he'll be places in like a training camp, he'll go over and spend 30 minutes trying to sign autographs for kids and families and stuff. And so I just really appreciate, he's really never lost that. And he appreciates what it means to be somebody's hero. I think in a very kind of, way with some sense of humility about him, but he's, I think, trying to give back in the way that he can and keeps kids' dreams alive and be kind and all that kind of stuff. So those basic little things. And I guess if the family's had anything to do, it's pop in his bubble if things are looking like it's easy though, because you start reading all that stuff and everybody tells you how great you are, and then Budweiser's calling and Levi's is calling and blah 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 and all these commercials, and they want to fly you here and do all that kind of stuff. And so just making sure you remember, 2 feet on the ground, you put one leg in your pants at a time like everybody, and just you still got to do the work. And so which he's, I think, overall done a really good job at. So those are some of the things. Amazing.
That was one of my questions, was who handles all the fan mail? Is that you and Emma, or the whole family take a basket of those? Because I had a feeling getting that volume of mail and how that looks behind the scenes.
Yeah, we don't really. We hardly do any of it right now, unless we have a personal connection with somebody and they go through one of the family members. We might do a little of that. The stuff that shows up, they package it all, and most of it we ship to Tennessee. And so then when we're there on site, honestly, we have this giant long table in one of the dining areas, and we just start kind of a chain. And so somebody just opens the mail, just cuts and just slides it. Next person, what is it? Is it autograph? Is it a thing? Is it a return? Is it an ask for whatever? So they go into 3 different lanes pretty much, and then we just funnel the autograph lanes. And so boom, 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 and then somebody's on the other end. And if they got packaging, then somebody packages it, seals it, drops it back in the laundry thing. And so we usually have 5 or 6 people working it, and then he's doing that. And so we try to do that, 2-3 hours a week just to try to get caught up on it. And I know people are out there and they're angry they didn't get a letter back. Just we try, the best we can. We really are. We're trying to. It matters. So, but that's kind of what we do when we have the family together, and we try to organize it like that, because it's, if you took one and opened it and tried to read it and figure it out, it takes so much time. So
I will say my fan mail is probably in one of those baskets.
I was going to say, Jess is like, all right, okay, thank you so much. Emailing customer service to be like, hey, I ordered this thing a while ago. Wondering about that.
Representative.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. It's really good. That's good work there, Jess. That's really what this is all about. I'm really impressed.
Real quick, since we're on the subject of fan mail, do you guys ever recall receiving a UK flag from the 49er faithful UK members? And I'll show you a little picture.
Okay.
This is what it looks like. That's the flag. And
we got one from Canada.
This picture is from right after the pandemic. They got together. They had a get together, and everyone wore an 85 jersey.
I see that.
It was not planned, and they officially dubbed themselves Club 85.
All right.
And that's how big fans they are across the pond.
Okay. And did they send us that flag, or are you suggesting that it's in the mail?
Yeah, the president of the club sent you that flag. I don't know how long ago, but he actually asked me that question today. Can I relay that? And I was like, surely, I'll ask.
We do. And George's. So we converted, when they bought a place, they've got a barn there. We converted into a workout facility, and then we added on to it. But we have a few nationality kind of flags hanging where people have sent stuff. And so we have Australia, we have Canada, and we have Mexico. I know we have those 3 for sure. So I don't recall the UK, but hopefully
you never know.
Yeah. So that's great though. Tell them thank you very much. That's pretty cool. Club 85. Everybody needs a Club 85. What the
heck? Sounds like
cool
a good
club to be in.
Yeah,
so before we talk about the Super Bowl, tell us about the Hidden Pearls podcast,
which is awesome, by the way.
Yes.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Go, Emmy.
So, pre-pandemic, right? So the year the pandemic happened, Bruce and I had this awesome plan, and we were going to buy a Sprinter van and drive around, because I wanted to take my dog, drive around to all of the games and follow the 49ers and do in-person events. So we had just started working with Nike a lot. Like, George had just become a Nike athlete, and then I had done some yoga events with them. And so we're like, let's go around, we'll do yoga, but then also some high risk stuff, and any different organization or social justice stuff. We're very big on social justice, social and environmental injustice. And so anything around that we could kind of shed some light on and then be present with is really what we wanted to do. So then the pandemic hit and we couldn't do anything in person and we couldn't leave the house. And so we're like, F it, let's start a podcast. And I swear, you guys, we were talking about it on like a Tuesday, and next week, the following week, we had started recording. And so it was like this mad dash because we're like, we have to get it up. Like we had to do a preseason game. And we obviously put like way too much pressure on ourselves in the beginning to get it up. But it was just like this mad, like, screw it, let's just see what happens. It looks on mine, it looks like you're pointing at your girl Bex. So
Oh, sorry.
I wouldn't throw shade that way. I wouldn't throw
We know what you meant, though.
We do this all the time. We understand.
Anyway, well, yeah, maybe it was me, but either way, we got it up in like a week and figured it out. And from there, we just wanted it to kind of be a, you know, I mean, with George and just his reach and the power of social media and connection, it just seemed like a really amazing way to stay connected in a really disconnected world. And there were obviously, you know, like the big organizations were getting a lot of help, but what we've really come to learn and what Dad has really showed us and shed light on is how many smaller organizations there are everywhere in kind of these very niche genres of like pockets of people that really, really needed help. And so as we were going through this, we were just meeting all these amazing people and kind of following the 49ers season and interviewing people. And the first season, we were interviewing other players and also somebody, we had some dense interviews for our first season. It was me, Bruce, and George for the first part. And then it was a player of the opposing team or a 49er. And then that was the first part of the show. And then the second half of the show was the somebody, like a person who works at the organization, and then a member or somebody who had received or like worked with them before. So we were telling both sides of those stories. Next season, we moved into veteran stories and we were still doing stuff with players. And then it's kind of just weaned down into just us and George. And then we still very much do donations and uplift charities and different work. But we've just found that it kind of like what I was saying before, like George's sphere, you know, like he has so much up here. And if we can just kind of clear that noise and make it this kind of fun, safe space for us to just connect and like be a family. Like I feel like half of our show is like us, like sibling banter sometimes. And Bruce just reeling out stats. And it just kind of turned into this little safe space for us to connect that way. So I mean, either way, I love Hidden Pearls. I love it so much. And I just feel really grateful that even though it was kind of just this like, F it, let's see what happens thing, it's turned into something really beautiful. And we've met some really, really incredible people. And it just keeps growing. It's kind of taken on a life of its own now.
And you have a trip to India planned, right? Something.
Oh, yes. things are exploding. Yeah, we actually, in November, we launched so like we do a huge part of what we do is mindfulness and kind of like mindful awareness. And Bruce actually has a whole program called Mindful Awareness and Performance that he was doing with all these different football players and like George. And then he started working with Cody. So now he's on some baseball guys and has just kind of been working with different athletes. And it works. You know, and so we were realizing that there's really something there. And so in November, we launched an app called Hidden Pearl Studio, and it has all of our like meditation and mindfulness practices. It has a lot of yoga, but also some workout things. And it's just, you know, and then obviously Bruce has all of his mindfulness stuff, and now all the Mindful Mondays are going to be over there. But that's been a beautiful expansion of this brand, of this community. And then we also, last Christmas, we did a show with Operation Freedom Paws. And if y'all don't know about them, I'm just going to brag on it for a second, but it's a veteran organization, and they take rescue dogs. They rescue dogs from the shelter, and then they train them to become a service dog, a service animal, and then match them with veterans. And so their motto is 4 paws, 2 feet, 1 mission. And I just literally can't say enough about how incredible the organization is and all the people who work there and the clients. We've had them on our podcast multiple times, and Mary is amazing. Pam is like the greatest of all time. But Pam the reason I'm circling this back, Pam introduced us to Nicola, who owns Nanda Journeys, and Pam had like gone to India and done all this stuff. And so Nanda Journeys, Nanda actually means joy in Sanskrit. And so it's kind of like service-based travel. And so it's very authentic to wherever you want to go, where she has like contacts all over. She's traveled so much. And so she has contacts all over the world that she kind of plugs us into. And so all of the money, all of the resources that we're spending through this trip go into the local economy. And like, instead of these kind of like chains or bigger businesses that are running other people out. And then a huge part of the proceeds goes to a chosen organization. And so for us, it's going to be Operation Freedom Paws. So right now we have 6 people going, which it was open to 20 and we got 6. And it is such a blessing. I am so excited that we have a little group because we get to do like all these different things now. And at first my ego was a little bit like, dang it. And then we started talking about it and like all these other things open up and it just feels like so like divine in that way and like how everything has worked out. So yeah, so we're going to India. We got spots if you guys still want to come. It's March 16th through the 30th and we're going to be there for about 2 weeks, like touring, eating. We're taking Ayurvedic cooking classes. Like it's going to be awesome.
Wow.
It's going to be awesome.
I would much prefer that over a mandatory compliance training, but here we are.
I feel that. Well, we're going to meet some elephants. Come on, come meet the elephants with us.
Oh. So I think my favorite part is that you guys keep it real. Like you said, sometimes you have like the sibling banter and, and stuff like that. And, but of course I like the Ask George segments and the Football 101. I don't know. I just, just from what I like, I'm a little nervous, guys.
Why?
Well, you guys, I'm a huge George Kittle fan.
I was gonna say, if you don't know Jess,
family,
person on earth.
Never heard that before.
Yeah. So
You're unaware. Shocking news to us. We're all floored by this.
Breaking news. You heard it here.
Yes.
Breaking news.
News. The quotes that you guys have, the quotes that you do, like how, put that into everyday life. Do you guys put that into everyday life and just, what you live by?
Oh,
yeah.
You like the quotes at the end of the show we do when we
Yes.
chat?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? So let's see. I don't know if I do have some, but so when George was younger,
I have one right here.
so,
He's like, I came prepared.
so I've got a whole.
They're everywhere. You guys, they're everywhere. Bruce got a laminator, and all of a sudden, these quotes are. It was like Back to the Future. Like Elon Musk had entered the picture. Like Bruce was. It was crazy.
So,
Is he like the memes that in going into Home Goods or whatever with all the little plaques and the sayings?
No, Bruce's quotes would not land at Home Goods. I think they would be. They are a little bit more inappropriate than that. Live, laugh, F shit up. That's what Bruce says.
Ever since I've been coaching, I've always done that. And so for my players, like each game of the season, if it was high school or whatever, I'd always do a quote for the week. And I'd cut it up and I'd give it to them. And then we'd chat about it. It was kind of our theme for that week. You know what I mean? So whether it was leadership or tenacity or self-accountability or just trying to find ways, to motivate players and do all that. And then I would, when George was at Iowa, I'd have them. And so I just put them in a letter, I just tuck one in. Here's what I used for the team this week or whatever. And so I just kind of was sending them to him. And so he was kind of keeping them all, you know what I mean? And so, and then so I kind of continued to do that. So I'll cut them up and then bring them to him or do whatever. And that's, honestly, almost once a week during his prep. I don't really call him because like if he wants to chat, he will, and we usually do at least once a week, but whenever he's ready for it. But I usually find a quote each week, usually on like a Wednesday, because that's really the start of their, they get between Monday and Tuesday. So Wednesday is really their start day. So just a little quote in the morning when he's heading to work, just to kind of whatever it is, I don't know. So just that. And so my folder of quotes on my computer is a little bit ridiculous. So anyway, so then we started dropping them in, this year on the back of the podcast, just because because usually we always ask, have you seen any hidden pearls? And so for us, hidden pearls are all the amazing organizations and people out in the world who are trying to be kind, love others, and make the world a better place. And there really are a lot of them. And that's really where we got the name for the hidden pearls. And so we wanted to kind of demonstrate that. And so we'd always ask, have you seen any hidden pearls this week? And so we'd have a chance to talk about just the little ways in which one person maybe during our week kind of made it a little bit easier, or smiled at you, or opened the door, or lifted a package, or who knows what it was. And so it can be the really smallest things, but these little ripples of kindness and love, we believe they really do make a difference. And so it was just kind of that. And then I started dropping the quotes in this year, and just kind of we wanted to just talk a little bit more about mindset and the ability, again, our world, the world that you experience is based on basically, where you're standing, what you look at, who you listen to, and all that. But it's the energy that you project and the expectations you have. You could look across the street and see somebody maybe all bearded up with a stocking cap pulled down, sitting in the dark, even on a podcast, and he looks kind of spooky. It could be the nicest guy in the world. But if you project, that's a scary dude, and he's probably packing a gun, and he might be coming over here to take, whatever. A lot of times that reality, yeah. I'm just saying though, the world rises up to meet your energetic frequency and your projections. And so, and just the way in which people can set proper boundaries, we don't have to get walked on. So there's just all kinds of little things, and just reminding people to feel empowered, to be yourself, be authentic, and you don't have to be everything for everybody. So just some of those things. Then we try to tweak a little bit of the justice issues, particularly we're huge fans of the ocean, and we'd like to make sure it's still there, in a healthy way for us. And clean water is a big deal. So we sponsor some groups that do wells in places that need water and that kind of thing. And so, in social justice issues. So just reminders, I guess, is what it is. Just, I find some of those quotes and from some of the people that said them to be just inspiring. It's something you can kind of hang on to and just kind of think about. It just gives you a little different perspective. So that's the quotes. So anyway, yeah, George he showed me a stat. He's up next to his bed. He pulled it out, and like the bottom, like it was last year's letters. And so it's like, like this. And the other side was last year's cards. And that's all piled up. I'm like, dude, I'm like a trash bin just waiting to go, aren't I? It's like, holy cow, all this stuff. But anyway, at least I don't know if he really reads them in the moment, but at least he's got it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to tag on to what Jess was saying, is I appreciate how you always try to make it about making an immediate and direct impact, because that's the way I was taught to do service. Do something that immediately impacts people. You can donate money to big organizations, but there's a trickle down for that. But if you take food to someone who's in need, that's an immediate impact. Or you donate shoes to kids in school, that's an immediate impact. To try and make those the little thing that has a bigger impact on this person, rather than donate $50 to the Red Cross. Not that that's bad, but if you take $50 pair of shoes to a kid who needs a pair of shoes, that's a bigger impact than just simply donating the money. So that's the message that I always take away from you guys. And I think that really resonates, for anybody who, or maybe needs to be reinforced to people who may not think of it that way, but it's a powerful message to always think about those kind of things and to do the little things, because they are impactful.
So speaking of shoes, can I give a shout out to a sponsor that really helped us with some kids this week? If that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've gotten involved with, NFL football is international, and then they have an international football league for youth and adults. So we've been working a little bit in the Caribbean and gotten to know the folks in the Bahamas for some different reasons. But anyway, we'll be back there in a couple of years. But anyway, so their youth team this year, the Pro Bowl is inviting the NFL affiliated youth flag football teams to come to the Pro Bowl, and they get to play at the stadium. I think it's on Friday. Most of the competition is. Well, anyway, the Bahamas team, we know the person sponsoring them, they needed uniforms and shoes. So they got the uniform somewhere else. But our good friends, Kev at Fix Kicks in Santa Clara, their shoe outlet there. And trust me, George knows him really well, because you know how much he loves shoes. And so I don't even want to talk about that. But anyway, so I called Kev. And so I think there's 10 kids on the team. They got them all brand new after we got them fitted. With brand new cleats. So they got on site today. So they'll have this week to get them broke in a little bit and wearing them and all that stuff. But it was really cool. So it's just one of the things, getting to know people, and then you call people who have access to certain things. And those guys were great. They said, hey, we'd love to do it. So they helped us out and sponsored those kids with all the shoes. And so it was really such a cool thing. And so if folks are interested in that, there's other teams from all over the world coming to play that international flag football game. So it's pretty cool. We're really thankful to them and just glad we could help them out. So it's a pretty cool deal. Anyway.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Shoes are cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little Super Bowl.
Fire away, Niners, Jess. What do you want to know?
I have one question for anybody else. What's the difference between this one and the last one so far? Like, I know we don't know the whole story, but like, how does this compare? Like, you kind of know what to expect now. Like,
Matt went serious. I was going to say, how do we get on the bus?
Wow. Okay. That's a little aggressive. I'm impressed, but I'm still, that's direct back. I'm really impressed with that.
Well, you mean just like from the players' experience, having been, this is their second.
Just from any of it, like, you've been to big college bowl games and stuff like that, but it feels like the Super Bowl is kind of its own other planet, like kind of on a whole other world. It's like where the world meets football, I guess. And like, it seems like that might cause a little zaniness at the very least.
The Super Bowl brings so many elements together. It is unreal. So, I've been rambling for a while. Emmy, why don't you talk? Because you were at the last one, and like, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're seeing? Because I want to make sure we create space for that. Because I'll just ramble. So you go.
Especially with all you do, like you must have some definite like ridiculousness stuff going on. So for sure, and hearing about it.
Bruce has a lot of ridiculousness. I'll confirm that.
That's a shirt.
Bruce is like, if the Super Bowl is a planet, Bruce is his own vortex, like creating some havoc. Like he's like the moon disrupting the seas in a way. But I think reflecting on last season, the last Super Bowl, I don't know. This just feels bigger, I think, because like to go last year and see how, like, just to experience it and feel it. It's like, I'd never been to a Super Bowl before. And like, I'd gone to like some games. I don't know. It just like, it wasn't landing with me. I think I was so like in the moment of the season and like every single game showing up. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're going to the Super Bowl. And it's like, awesome. But I didn't realize like how big of an event it was. I mean, it's like a week of events and like appearances and, and so just as such an empath, like I feel for what George and Claire are going through. And like, while it is so much fun, obviously, it's a lot of energy, but it's only for, a small window. So it definitely, I feel like their nervous systems are ready at this point for this, but I think just going into it, knowing that, and I mean this with absolutely no disrespect, but like, I feel like sometimes when I go to a big event, I'm like, everything, like this is such a massive event. Everything's going to be organized perfectly. Like, everything's going to make so much sense, and it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like there are like, it doesn't. I will say the Niners do a really fabulous job of like communicating with the families and setting everything up. But I just remember last year, it was like, we're supposed to go that way. We're supposed to go that way. We got to go that way. And it's like, I was like, this is a Super Bowl. Like, and I'm getting all sassy about it. I mean, like, I just don't understand what's going on. And I think, the high energy of the game mixed with like there is so much energy at the stadium. And Miami was like a wild, like talk about a wild animal. Like Miami was that wild animal. So I think I feel a lot calmer about it going into this year, because I think I'm very grateful that we have been once. And so just kind of knowing what to expect. And then also, like I said before, like managing my own energy when I'm around Claire and George, to where it's not like, because last year I was like, holy shit. Like, and I'm just like so in awe, which is still really fun. But at some point it's like you gotta bring it down. You gotta be grounded. Like we're not like sprinting around all over the place every day. It's like you really need to rest, because the day of the game it feels like an entire week. I don't even know what to say. Like you're up at the crack of dawn. Girls are doing glam. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. Like you got to figure out when you're going to eat. There's just like so many little details that are a little overwhelming. And so I think this year, just going into it, like consolidating the energy a little bit more is going to be my goal. And just Yeah, just soak it in. I mean, that's all you can really do is just like jump in the river and get taken away. So screw it. That's it. It's like a gainer, like backflip into the water and just let it take you.
Do you think having been there once is preparation for what's coming, and it helps keep your mind right and do the right thing and be ready for all of the attention and all of the events and the exhausting schedule that comes at the players? Do you think that's beneficial for
Totally.
the players?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think even like, because I see George, like I'll see George, I might see him like, once or twice, but I'll be with Claire a lot. And so, even like the stardom that like Claire has reached and Kristen, like, oh my God, like just like the energy around, like for the first Super Bowl, we went to Miami and we hung out on the beach and like had a pool day and it was nothing. And like maybe like some people recognize Claire, but it wasn't like weird at all. It wasn't like overwhelming. And like right after that season was like when everything started shifting, in the Super Bowl will do that. Like it's so big that all of a sudden the entire world is watching. And I think just seeing how Claire handles it, like she is like, talk about an alter ego. Like George talks about alter egos, like from the Joker to Master Chief and like tapping into that energy. Like Claire goes into, I don't know, Bruce, we need to learn what her alter ego is, but like she goes into like super Claire and is just like, she's pretty much like Kris Jenner mixed with like Cher or Beyonce and just like makes it all work and manages all of us. And so I think, that'll be interesting because I have no idea how people are going to react to her. That's kind of what I want.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's true. I think the other thing for Claire is she can't go places now like she used to. Like, I mean, we used to be easy to go to the stadiums and do all that kind of stuff. And the home games aren't bad, but the away games, it's just, her notoriety and that, especially if we're with Kristen and all that kind of stuff. So those things have all changed, the way we have to transport and get places and do things and all that kind of stuff. And when we have to hire security and all that. And again, I'm not trying to say we're all that. I'm just saying the fan world, and we love fans because without fans, the game's not much fun. So we learned that before. So nothing about that, but we've been in some very, very bizarre, difficult situations. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that whole thing is
security.
Yeah, extra. That's a side note to that. I mean, the great thing is there's an event like this that is already super chaotic and wild, and they're dropping it into a super calm, relaxed city like Las Vegas, where there's nothing else
Peaceful
going
place.
on.
Yeah. No better place for mindfulness. Yeah.
Super chill. Yeah. So it's all good.
Super
it's
chill
like
town.
All that, and then it's like throwing like red chili peppers on it and just like putting on the fire. You know what I would say? The one stat I read, and I didn't do this myself, but they were talking between the Chiefs and the Niners. There's only 12 players that are carried over from that original game. So, in that sense, now that doesn't mean some of the other players haven't been to Super Bowls or in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. But I guess the one thing I think, in one hand, it does the experience is good, and I think there's almost maybe for the coaches, it's a little bit the preparation and how you prepare your guys and all that. So obviously Andy Reid's been through plenty of that, between his time at the Eagles and there. So he's obviously very good at what he does. But I think in the way this will be, I think Coach Shanahan will probably modify things a little bit. And I think he already has over the years since that, and there was some experience learning and all that kind of thing. So I think we're in a great place as far as that goes. I'll say though, like the Packers went to Dallas and everybody was saying how young they were, the youngest team in the NFL and all that. They just went in and, took care of it. So in a way, and this isn't just a playoff game in Dallas, this is, the Super Bowl. So it does ratchet up, and it's like the length of time that you're there and all the other events, it just kind of keeps throwing one extra log on the fire. So if you're not careful about dissipating that energy, it can consume you by Sunday. So I think overall the guys do a really good job with that. They do have if you look at CMC, Brandon Ayuk's been around now, the guys, Trent Williams, we have a lot of guys who've been around a long time. Now, this is for Trent's for Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So It's amazing that he's been in the league that long. So that'll be kind of an interesting thing. I mean, you can't help but, it's still kind of jittery with your first time because, for a guy like that who's so good and he's been on different teams, to only make this his first Super Bowl, and the pressure to get a ring is a big deal. You know what I mean? And so that ratchets all that kind of stuff up. So I think it's helpful, but I think overall it really comes down to the overall team personality. They have to do a good job internally, not letting all the bullshit from outside kind of get to you. They have to make sure guys on the fringe, it only takes one or two players to kind of go off the tracks, because you never know.
Yep.
I mean, it's like when Debo went out, right? And Jennings came in and had barely played, and there were some other guys, that stepped up. If those guys aren't ready to go and they're paying too much attention to Las Vegas, I mean, you don't know who's going to hurt you. So I think keeping everybody in the flock, making sure they're not distracted, just breathing a lot, not overworking them, making sure we're fresh. I think all that. And I think overall the Niners have done a great job of that during this, postseason situation. So, but it's, each game's new. Like, that saying goes, no person ever enters the same river twice, because the river's different, and so are you every time you cross it. And so, like George, he's not the same player he was back in 220. And so it'll be very, interesting that way. Cool. Is that enough? Yes. This is.
What do you think we have to do to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs this time?
Well, I would say this. Patrick's going to get his. You know what I mean? Like this season, he had some obstacles, and he had a couple games that really weren't Patrick Mahomes. But I think they've kind of figured that out. I think they're very much in stride and all that kind of thing. So the thing for me is I just think we have to do us really well. And so for us, I think that means, we obviously have to stop the run better than we did against the Lions in the first half. So we need to shore that kind of stuff up. We have a little issue with the way we play those wide 9 defensive ends, and the league has figured out how to either kick them out or seal them down, and people run off the edge on us and that kind of stuff. So, and honestly, it was 2 years ago. Kansas City was the first team that really exploited that. They did a little pin and pull where they blocked down. They would kick out in that and pull up on the look. And they ran that like 8 times for about 15 yards a pop. And that was one of the plays that really rocked us. You remember that they beat us pretty bad that year. And so ever since then, the league's kind of figured out some of the wide 9 stuff. And overall, we've done a better job of handling that. But I expect to see a bunch of that. But I think we've got to really control the run, try not to give up the big play. And I think just, I'm a little bit more of an offensive guy. So just with George and our guys, if CMC has 160 yards, we win. And that's just the way we are. And so I would love to see us line up and run a bunch of outside zone. We are an outside zone and gap team. That's what we do.
Yep.
And my hope is that we don't get real cute. We don't have to make it splashy. I would line up and say, we're going to come right here. If you think you can stop us, then let's see what happens. And just go kind of mano on mano and not get too fancy. Because our philosophy and all the game, the teams that I've been associated with, the bigger the game, the smaller the game plan. Because the guys have enough to worry about. You know what I mean? There's other pressure. Yeah. There's TV. There's the pressure of the ring. And so you want to make sure if your guys know exactly what you're doing and have confidence in that, and they understand the game plan. So I just, I hope we don't, because Coach Shannon is a brilliant mind, and he can out X and O just about anybody in the world. But not every player can X's O, because you're out there, right? You have 40 seconds to figure it out. So think about it. And you guys have heard some of the calls, right? And they're literally 40 words long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So by the time you break the huddle, you have about 20 seconds. Then you're standing there. So if you're a slot receiver, say, and they're hiding their coverage, you don't, if it's a single high safety or 2 deep, or the backers rotated, are they playing a 3-4 or 4-3? Off the edge, who's the hot guy? All that shit has to happen. And then Brock has to come up, make decisions, and he might can to play, flip it over. And so there's so much going on, and there's so much movement and so many distractions. Not knowing what you're going to do is worse, than not being too fancy. So my hope is if we come out and run our gap schemes and do that, and we don't turn the ball over, I think it'll be a great game, and we have every, and I do believe, Brock's going to have to be Brock at his best. I mean, he's going to have to make some of those throws he made all year. And I think he will. He's one of those calm, cool, collected guys. And I think the playoffs and the struggles that we have, I think will really help us. Just like you guys remember when we went to the Eagles, and that game eventually was out of hand, but the first 2 series were awful.
That first quarter is terrible.
And, you're sitting there thinking, oh shit, are we back? Is this going to be the repeat? And then we finally got that first down, and then they went down and they scored on 6 consecutive drives.
Yep.
And so I think it's just, I think these playoff games have really helped the players who haven't had a lot of that experience. And I think they've kind of settled in. I think the other thing it does, it gives you a world of confidence that no matter what's going on in the game, if we just kind of keep breathing and playing hard, trust the process, trust our team, trust our coaches, everything's going to be okay. And I think the Lions game for sure, I mean, that's the largest effort ever in a championship game to come back. Just the ability to do that. And, we got the ball with 6:08 left in the fourth quarter, 70-yard drive. And just the way they kind of methodically marched it down. And some guys made that Ayuk third down conversion was unbelievable. And Brock scrambles, he scrambled for 58 yards. I mean, it was unbelievable. So anyway, I'm preaching to the choir with you guys. So it's basically no turnovers, just be true to ourselves and do what we do and try not to be somebody else, because that's not who we are. That clip
Sounds
of
like
go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're saying we should run it more than 9 times against the Chiefs. Like, I'm not saying another team recently only ran it about 9 times, but that's how I'm reading that. Okay, run it more than 9 times. That's what I'm saying.
If CMC's got at least 20 rushes, I think we're like 9-1 or something, when he has something like that. And so it's just that commitment. And, and people, I know fans get frustrated, but, think how fresh the defense is in the first quarter. They're all excited and all juiced up.
Yep.
And so you run that outside zone and you might get 2 or 3 on it. And everybody's like, oh, the run game's not going. But then you keep running. And then in the second quarter, it turns into a 3 to 5 yard run. And then in the third quarter, it turns into a 5 to 7 yard run. And then the next thing, he's breaking it for 48 because they can't get there as fast as they did in the first quarter. So this is like, it's like Muhammad Ali back in the day of the rope-a-dope, and let Foreman just punch the body. And that's really what we're doing. These are all body blows over and over and over. Yeah. And we win games in the run game in the third and fourth quarter. And so I just encourage folks to be patient with that and trust our guys. Because when Trent Williams hits you 20 times in the face,
you don't want 21.
You're not the same guy you were when you started. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And I don't want to, but and that, like that block that George had on Hutchinson, you know what I mean? That backside. Still, if you're doing that over and over and over, there's no cavalry coming for you. They got to stand there and keep taking it. And to me, that's the difference. And then we do a little play action, some safe stuff, get it started early. Don't try to throw too much, but you got to throw down the field to stretch the defense, make sure the safeties aren't.
Keep them honest. Yeah.
So you got to do some of that. But we have players that can do that between Debo, whether it's George on the backside, even, and I think Juice on the wheel route. We haven't seen enough of that.
Oh, yeah.
This week, So all that kind of stuff. So just, I think, staying diverse, making sure everybody's getting a little dip and dose and making sure they really have to cover the entire field. So anyway, I've got a whiteboard behind me. If you want me to get going, I can do something.
Let's draw some X's and O's. Yeah.
So that's really just be us. Don't try to be too fancy. Be super physical. Don't throw the ball over. And I think we're all good.
I always say on this show, good things happen when the ball's in George Kittle's hands.
Well,
that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
I'm all for that. So I'd be one of those guys. Like, there are certain guys in the first 10 plays I'd have scripted every time, just so Brock gets hooked up with them. So I'd want CMC to get, at least 3 to 4 runs. I'd like to see George touch it at least once. I'd want to get it to Debo, make sure Ayuk's set up, just so we're making some, in that short range, just easy completion passes, just get everybody in a flow so you touch the ball. I mean, if you haven't touched the ball and it's, late second quarter and now it's a third and 14 and that's the first, it's not you still got to do it, but it's just a little different. You're in that flow. You haven't been tackled yet, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just like getting players involved really early. So, and I'm not griping on Shanahan for whatever he does. I mean, obviously it's worked pretty good. He's won a hell of a lot more NFL games than I have. So it's good. But I really like getting our key guys warmed up early, making sure they're touching the ball. So just spread it out, make sure the defense knows I do have to cover George on the backside. I've got to watch Debo coming across the middle or whatever. So that stuff. Yeah. I think that's really true. So, okay.
So Emma, I got a question for you from Dawn. She wants to know what's it like being Kittle's older sister?
Kind of hilarious. I just having a little brother who is so aggressive and massive energetically. I still very much feel like his older sister, but I just think it's, I mean, I think it's kind of funny, but it's also just, I feel so proud because I still like his caller ID on my phone. He's maybe like 50 pounds, and he's like this little boy, like out in the woods, like just being so wild. And so every time he calls me, it's like I just see that and I remember, and he does such a good job of always staying connected to that little boy. But like I remember to not like that we still have that like little sibling energy, and for whatever reason, we're on this journey together, walking the world as siblings. And so it's so fun, it's so fun. He still has like incredible little brother energy. If any of you are older siblings, like George is still very much the second child. So so anything goes for Georgie, but he's wonderful. Like it's so great.
Cool. Becca, you have anything else?
Well, I have a request. I would like for you guys to run us through a mindful minute before we let you go, if you would.
Yeah, Bruce, mindful minute, baby.
Oh, okay. You're welcome to do it, Em, if you want or whatever. I'm glad to. Okay, mindful minute it is. Okay.
He's got his bowl. Hit the chime, Bruce.
Okay, I got 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds. So we'll do this quickly. So, all right, I'll just do the wrap that I normally do. So let's see. I better think of something really quick. Okay. Hey, Bruce Kittle here with Hidden Pearls. Welcome to a Mindful Minute with the East Coast Red and Gold team. We are grateful to be here. Invite you to get comfortable, whatever that means for you. Relax just a little bit. We're going to take 3 breaths today. The focus today is on the courage to be. And that just means when we meditate and are mindful, we have to be present with whatever is and whatever shows up without judgment. And so today, we're going to take 1 big breath to clear. We're going to take another breath, inhale and exhale, in order to see what's present. And the third one, we're just going to hold it without judgment, whatever shows up. So if you want to join me, here we go. We're going to inhale real big and deep. Make sure you're filling the lungs. Hold for 1 count, and then we'll exhale out. So on the first breath, we're just clearing everything out. Let go of anything that's not serving. So here we go. We're inhaling. Hold for count, and let it all out. Release the body, release the body, release the body. This one, as you inhale, create space to see whatever shows up for you. Just hold it, hold it, hold it, and exhaling. And in this one, we're releasing any judgment, any limitations around whatever it is that showed up. Here we go. Inhaling in. And we're letting go of stories, negative self-talk, limitations. And we are moving ourselves into operating at the highest frequency that is true and authentic for us. All right. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you for this mindful minute. And thank you to the East Coast Red and Gold team for having us on. May you have a mindful and blessed week. There you go.
Awesome.
Incredible. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Guys,
right.
thank you so much. Congratulations again. Hopefully we'll see you guys in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
And
we'll be out there.
Yeah, we'll be out there. And go Niners.
Yeah, go Niners.
Say hi to George for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will do that. We're still waiting. You guys asked about the thing with the podcast, because their weekly schedule with Shanahan, because the weeks it's a Monday, then it's a Thursday, then it's this playoffs. So it's always changed. So we keep having this idea that we're going to set up 1 week and record, but it's never the same. So it's moving targets. We may or may not get done tonight. We're hoping we do for this week, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, so thanks for having us on. Appreciate you guys' support. Shout out to all the fans for being Niner fans and for listening. And we appreciate you. And I just want to say what I heard many, many players say. Levi was rocking unbelievable last weekend. So do what we can to make Allegiant Stadium the same way. And just a shout out to the Niner faithful who travel. It is unbelievable when we go to all those stadiums and they take it over. So it's crazy. So thank you so much for everybody that loves the Niners. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I would say thank you so much for having us on. And if anybody wants to join the Hidden Pearls studio, I'll set up a discount code. So we'll do 20% off your membership, whether it's annual or monthly. But I think
Can we-
it's ECRG, right? That's how you're going to say it, ECRG. So
Yep.
I'll put that on. So if you sign up through the website, you can't do it through the app because Apple takes away all my discount code privileges. But if you sign up through the website, I'll send Jess all the information. And when you check out, enter ECRG. It'll put a 20% discount on whatever you guys get.
There we go. East
Oh,
Coast.
amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Appreciate that.
All right, you bet.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, gang.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Go Niners.
Oh,
Go
nice.
Niners.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
Super cool.
Indeed.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard Jess stutter.
It had to take a
For
second.
words, she's like,
Yeah.
That
I
was the
like,
first
"Woo!"
time she ever Chris Farley showed somebody. Honestly, that was really the first time. that
Barbara
ever happened.
Walters has a weakness.
That was the first
If
time.
you know, you know.
Yep. If you know, you know. That's right. Ooh, yeah. That was
amazing.
yeah. That was
Yeah,
that was really
great
cool.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
definitely.
really good. You know what else is really good stuff, by the way? Planet Jerky. Okay, that is also
don't say.
really, really good stuff. It's
Tell
an
me
all
more.
brisket jerky with gluten-free options, no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. I mean, that's the way you want it, right? I mean, that's how it goes. Brisket beef jerky, the jerky that's on a whole nother planet. You can find more at planetjerky.net. And of course, for IE Sports Radio, make sure to follow them at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And of course, go to and check out all of our stuff there at iesportsradio.com/East Coast Red and Gold. She is the Barbara Walters of the
Yes,
faithful.
indeed.
And yes, I do have some more lighting this week. Listen, so
We
it's
see
great.
that.
I was finally able to move some of the lights, so it was really, I could still keep the mood while also not having it blast me in the face. So I was really excited.
Yeah, you didn't look like
Also,
Dracula.
shout out to the Christmas
Much
lights that are still up
normal.
on the tree and the glow. You know, it's really, really
So
appreciate that.
guys, who were your game balls from Sunday?
Well, I mean, if you didn't give one to Ayuk for that catch, like that was pretty spectacular.
I don't know. Kyle Juszczyk had a couple of pretty big catches as well.
Indeed.
Right? Like
McCaffrey
really
was-
big catches.
Good blocks in the run game.
Brock Purdy was channeling his inner 1984 Super Bowl versus the Dolphins, Joe Montana, with the runs, right? Like,
Yep.
oh wait, Purdy can run too.
I
I
can
didn't
take
I didn't
off.
know that. Oh wow, what a shocker!
Yeah,
I think mine is the ladybug.
the ladybug.
Yeah,
The
you could get the
ladybug.
ladybug.
Okay.
Yep.
I got one, and I've been trying to find out this individual's name, but my game ball goes to whoever booked Journey to be the halftime performance. Because Don't Stop Believing, Turn the Tide. That was
that and the
brilliant.
confetti. They blew confetti at the end of that, by the way. Now keep in mind, folks, yeah, they blew confetti at the end of the journey. Reports on
really?
the ground said.
At halftime, yeah, I was like, oh wow, confetti,
Like-
and we're down.
Did anyone watch the Philadelphia 76ers recently? Like, I'm just thinking, you know, like I'm thinking like confetti like laws should be in place of some sort, but like somehow it worked here. Okay, so let's not ask questions.
Yeah, because Gippy forced that fumble.
Yeah. I
That
got
was
one
the
for
play,
Steve Wilkes
man.
as well.
Yeah,
He totally
He's-
flipped the script in the second half, started playing things much tighter, shut down that run game. That was brilliant, you know, halftime adjustment coaching there.
Yeah,
guys-
Aaron Banks
Go ahead.
played one of his best games as a 49er. Like,
Yeah.
whew, he was tough.
he did
Man.
play well, but I was going to say Chase Young still seemed to have some struggles in the game. But you're right. Ty was going to tag on to that and say that we did tighten it up into a lot more man coverage. And even Kyle said that in the press conference that, you know, they really recognized that they had to not give them so much of a deep zone
Yeah.
because they were picking us apart.
Yeah. Those freaking third and longs. Oh my god.
Yeah,
We
it's
talked
you know
about
what,
them before.
it's almost like, you know what, like third and long, like, oh, we're just gonna be on the field anyway. Like that
Mhm.
that's what it kind of like, for me at least, it's,
I
you know
don't
what I
even get
mean?
excited about third downs anymore. I really don't. I actually dread them. I dread third downs. I dread third downs like a root canal. I dread third downs like, anything. Anything that or going to get my vehicle inspected yearly, right? Like the same sort of dread I have for third and longs. Like I don't get excited for third and long. In fact, second down sacks to me are like the worst thing, right? Because it's like, oh no, we've set up a third and long and we know what happens on third and long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were points in that first half where you're like, what is this team? What happened to this defense? And then the switch turned, and then the tide turned, and then basically the Lions' own powers were used against them twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their over aggressiveness cost them. I mean, even you can even argue that play with Gibbs where he fumbled, their over aggressiveness cost him. Like he was already stopped at the line, just go down and move on. Instead, he's like, I'm gonna break through. Yeah, no, you're not. You're going to fumble the ball here, and
Yep.
it's going to be recovered. And it was
You're not
immediately. And that was it. There was no third and long. If you get a fumble on first down, you don't have to worry about third and long. So that's the key with this
It's
defense.
over.
Get the turnover on first or second down, and then we never get the third and long.
We don't get the third and teens, right?
Yeah,
we don't have to worry about it.
We're not doing that. Let's just get the turnover on first or second down. We do that, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time that the announcer would be like, this is third down, I'm like, here we go. Like I felt like Dak Prescott. Like, here we go.
Here we go.
I just cringe. I just cringe at third and teen something because it's like, oh crap.
Here, then
somebody's gonna catch it 13 yards,
like
13 yards short of the thing, and like break 5 tackles and get by it, and we're gonna sit there. Or they're going to get close enough to where they decide to go for it and they just fall forward for a first down, and we're all going to sit there and
it's third and 17. We give up 16 yards. It's like, what the F?
Right.
Kills me.
Yeah. Maddening.
Yeah.
Chris wants to know, do you guys think Wilkes puts the defense in bad position, or was it just bad execution?
Can we give the Lions just a little bit of credit? Like maybe just slightly. That maybe they came in and did things that they have never really done before that we probably weren't expecting, and it caught us off guard. And sometimes it's going to happen, and sometimes it's going to work, and sometimes it's going to happen, and sometimes it's not going to work. In this case, it did, because that's just how it works. But the corrections were made that needed to be made, right? Like, also, fun fact in this game, in case anybody forgot, Nick Bosa had sacks. Remember that? Did you see that?
Yeah.
I was thinking about you. I was thinking about you when that happened.
I'm like, thank you. Welcome to the show, friend. Like, how do you do, buddy? Like, come on in. Have a seat. We've been waiting for you. Like, they need that.
It only took a month.
Once again, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes the package arrives after Christmas, okay? But it still doesn't mean it's not a gift.
Still pretty spectacular to get no matter what time.
Yeah.
But Matt, to your point, talking about the Lions and how good they are, there's a quote that says, "Luck is sometimes believing you're lucky." And when you're on, you have momentum and you're rolling and you're doing things that exceed expectation, you get confident. And you over exceed because you fully believe you can. And that's where I feel like the Lions were. They just rolled in and they had a head full of steam. They weren't expected to get this far. And they came in and I think they had a lot of gusto, a lot of power, behind their engine. And, eventually they ran out of gas. That whole rust to rest thing, analogy, we finally made the adjustments and wore them down. But you're right, they did some things that we weren't ready for or expecting out of them. And I think the best laid plans, you have to be able to pivot when something doesn't work.
They didn't have a lot of tosses to Montgomery this year, and I saw a bunch in that game, and they were all effective. I'm like, they haven't tossed to Montgomery all year.
That's the thing. They broke what they normally do in the run game. There's normally power running, off tackles, and such. But as we know, this is a copycat league.
Yeah.
They saw Green Bay have success with tossing the ball to the outside, crashing down on our ends, and just going around. They did the exact same thing, and they just copied it from both sides. And they did the freaking misdirection end around, which is basically the same play. You pinch down on the end and you go around them. So I could say they weren't expecting that, right? Because they haven't done it all year, but they simply copied. Oh, Green Bay has success with it. We're going to do it too. Plus the combination of Wilkes playing, everybody back and soft because they like to throw and, attack the middle. So that's what he was expecting. That's why I mentioned, okay, at halftime, he was like, okay, if that's what they want to do, we're going to adjust to it. He brought everybody up, had Gibson down in the box, brought a safety down, and said, beat us now. And we saw they were shut down until that last drive in the fourth quarter. They couldn't do anything. So kudos to the Lions for, copying the game plan and taking advantage of it. But when it came time for them to come up with their own game plan, they were stuck.
So Melissa has a question. Kermit is on a 6-game playoff streak, no sack, interception, fumble, or pick six. Could you see breaking that? I could see Mooney Ward with a pick.
Yeah.
Against his old team.
I was, it's exactly who I would pick too, for that very reason.
I would hope like everything that dude is all over Travis Kelce. Like I hope from the time that they flip the coin that Mooney Ward is on Travis Kelce. And I wouldn't normally say, let's go ahead and put your number one cover corner on a team's tight end, but it is clear and abundantly clear that Travis Kelce is their number one receiving threat because they still don't quite trust Rashee Rice yet. And I feel like the rest of their receiving crew is just not quite there. So I feel pretty strongly that our defensive backfield can hang with them. And if Ward can neutralize him at all, make it the Mahomes and Pacheco show, and then make those two beat you. And if they do, well, hats off to them, right? But I have an idea that if you take Kelce out of it, and I'm pretty sure Mooney Ward has that ability, right? He's big enough, he's tall enough, he's fast enough. Doggone it, people like him. Hopefully everybody got that reference. I think that'll make things much more difficult on Kansas City than they were over the previous 3 games.
Yeah,
we got to shake it off.
I don't know. You know what? I don't see us like as far as our run defense. I don't see Pacheco running all over like Gibbs did.
He's not a tossy runner.
No.
He that's not his game. He's an off tackle.
For a small guy,
yeah.
He plays like a power back. He plays like he's
Natrone means a little
exactly.
bit,
yeah, he wants to get downhill in the hurry, So I saw a mini who tore his ACL. I feel bad for him. And he was balling too. But he wants to get downhill. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried a little bit of that, but that's not really how they run with him.
I'm sure we'll talk more about this too, but I was really glad that Coach Kittle mentioned it. At the end of the day, running the ball is the way to beat this Chiefs team. And for some reason, last week, the Baltimore Ravens decided we are not going to win this game the way that we could win it. We're going to win this game the way we want to win it. And it didn't work out so well for them. And we've seen how this team goes, and they don't give up on the run game. And when Christian McCaffrey's getting 6, 7, 8 yards on first down, on second down, it makes things a lot easier in the second half, and things have been pretty good sledding for this team. They finally learned their lesson in terms of abandoning the run game. They've stopped abandoning the run game. When things start going off the rails, they remember, oh, hey, wait, we have Christian McCaffrey. Let's go back to that run game, right? Or let's fake a run, and then we'll throw it to Christian McCaffrey, and he can run it for 3 or 4 yards, right? It's like when a basketball shooter has to get fouled and go to the free throw line and make a few free throw shots. It gets warm, things start getting better. That's what happens with this team. It reminds me, and this is going to gross all of us out, and I'm really sorry for bringing this up, but it reminds me a lot of the mid '90s Cowboys. Like when Emmitt Smith would get hot, you couldn't stop the Dallas Cowboys. Like it wasn't happening because that offensive line was in sync. He was in sync, and at that point, you had to commit so many people to him that, you know, you're tying your hand behind your back for Harper and Urban. And this is a team that is set up to do the exact same thing. So hopefully they take advantage of that, because Baltimore sure didn't. 9 runs, 3 of them were with your quarterback against a team that can't really stop the run, an undersized defensive line that is missing, as was just pointed out, Charles Omenihu. Like they're already lacking depth on the defensive line and in the linebacker position. Wear them out. What are you doing?
To answer your question, Melissa, yes.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I know they'll try. JJ worries me simply because, you know, he's so valuable, and I think around the league, other teams are taking notice of him and his value, that I could see him getting priced out of our, you know, range. There's always some weird team that's going to come out of nowhere and be like, hey, we'll give you $15 million a year.
Look at how much Jacksonville spent for Christian Kirk a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, some weird team will come out of nowhere and throw him a boatload of money and totally throw off the whole wide receiver market. Like that can happen. So he worries me, but I'm pretty sure they're already talking about re-signing him internally.
I could totally see him, just to answer Melissa's question here too, I could totally see him having one of those catches, because he's already had those catches during those playoffs, right? Like this is where those big money catches come in. And sometimes guys just make a couple of lucky plays and get a massive free agent deal. So this is the stage for any one of these guys that's trying to make some money to play their best game and to make the play every single time, right? Your number only might get called a couple of times because maybe they decide to run it 40 times, which would be the greatest day of my life. But that won't happen because everybody wants to stress us out. It's fine. But at the end of the day, like if they make the plays when they're supposed to, even if he only gets 2 targets, but he makes one amazing one-handed catch to get a third down, people are going to take notice of that because they know that there's only so many touches to go around in the system. You know, they're not throwing with 2 footballs. There's only one.
Yeah, I don't even see it as like an amazing catch. I just see him just like breaking, getting open,
consistency,
and just exactly, and just extending the chain, just doing what he does. And it's like, there's third in Juwan. Well, he's been turning into second in Juwan also. So like his game is expanding. Listen, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the 1 year thing, I agree. That's why I said it scares me, because I can see some team going, hey, we'll give you 4 years, $15 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, shoot, we can't afford $15 million a year for our 4th, 5th receiver.
All right, so we'll talk more about the Super Bowl next week. But do you guys have anything else you want to add before we get to our 2-minute warning? All right, so let's go to that hurry up offense and the 2-minute warning.
Not so hurry up. Hold up, the play clock is still ticking.
What's the hurry? What's the hurry? We got to run the clock down.
I cannot find
Please put 2 minutes on the game clock. Thank you.
Run the game clock down. Do it, Ty. Do it.
Thank you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Boom.
Go ahead, Becca.
Thanks to the Kittles for coming on the podcast. 100%. The Mindful Minute and all that they do in this world is amazing. Anybody going out, wear your white and gold. Best of luck to all of our players who are up for nominations. You know, and I'm so happy for Trenton, Kyle, and CMC and Juice and those guys, and all of our returning, you know, players from the last Super Bowl team. I think we got it this time. We're a better team. We're a different team from the Kansas City team we're playing. And my goodness, anybody headed to Vegas, we'll see you there. Go Niners.
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Kittle and Emma. Thank you so much for coming on. Was a little starstruck. first time that's happened. But shout out to the chat. You guys are awesome as always. And Ty, your shirt's awesome. And
Melissa was pointing it out.
if
That's why I showed
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
we'll be out in Vegas. So if you're going to be out there and you see us, come say hi. And as always, go Niners. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Vegas is going to be a bunch of fun. We're out there. It seems like we're always represented.
Yeah.
You know, in
Mhm.
some way on game day situations. East Coast Red and Gold, folks. We don't just talk it, we live it.
That's
That's
right.
what makes us different. Remember that. But yeah, Vegas is going to be fun. Everybody go out there, have fun. I know people are going out early next week. Represent the faithful well. And let's bring this home. We'll be talking about it next week, but go Niners.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Go out this week, watch all the old winning Super Bowls over and over and over again. Find them, study up on them, catch all the callbacks. Guys, I knew we were going to win this game when we were down 24-7 at the half, because that's when they were down 24-7 at the half and 57. It's just weird. It's like this team has come back from some other universe to right all the wrongs that have been done previously. And now they've been given this golden opportunity to make up for the garbage that was Super Bowl 54. So if we can get that all taken care of and redubbed and make up for that loss, well, you know, all the better for the world, really.
All right. And with that being said, we will see you next week.
Go Niners!
Go
Good night,
Niners.
everybody.
Super Bowl, baby!
Woo!
Dub City!
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.